You're listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast, the show that helps you build wealth faster, think outside the box, and break out of the herd. Here's your host, Jim Oliver.
Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today, Clifford Walker. Welcome, Clifford.
Ooh, doggy. What is going on, brother? I excited and honored to be here with you. I really am, man. I appreciate you having me.
I'm thankful that you're here, and I'm grateful for what you're going to share with the audience. Love the hat and the cowboy closer. So before we get into that, Clifford, just take a couple minutes and introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, I'm Clifford Walker, born and raised here in Texas. Dallas, Texas is where I'm located. Real estate investor, speaker, philanthropist, best-selling author. I guess some of the things that I've done are quote unquote accomplished, I guess you could say. There.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about where all this came from. Mm-hmm. Tell me about Clifford getting out of high school. What are you going to do with your life? How did that go? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
Man, I was a knucklehead for a little bit and kind of bounced around doing jobs, nothing random or nothing major there, to say the least. I ended up becoming a truck driver over the road, and I did that for 7 years. And it was funny because when I was truck driving, I heard a podcast. And I was driving in West Texas. Like, if anybody's been out in West Texas, there's nothing out there but oil and cotton fields, right? So I was out there and I heard a podcast where a guy was talking about wholesaling real estate and how much money he was doing wholesaling real estate. So I'm like, oh, wow. Like, it hooked me. Like, it roped me, right? And I was like, oh, I'm definitely finna start wholesaling real estate. When I came home, I told my wife, I'm like, babe, we're finna start wholesaling real estate. And she looked at me like I was crazy, right? But from that moment, I was hooked. I was hooked. And so I ended up getting connected to a mentor who kind of showed me what they were doing, a local mentor here in Dallas, and how they were rocking and rolling. And I just hit the ground running.
Yeah, nice. So what made you, sitting in the truck away from your family, that's motivation. Was there any other motivation or adversity that created this drive in you to want to get into real estate?
You know, that was the big thing for me, honestly. You mentioned being over the road and gone. Like, I'm married. I got 2 daughters. So shout out to all the cheer dads out there. You know, that was me. And I was gone. I did that for 7 years and out over the road, 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. And then they send you home for what they call a 34-hour reset, if anybody knows anything about trucking. So you're basically gone for an entire month. You come home for 2 days and then they send you back out. Yeah. And it took a toll on me mentally, physically. My young marriage was taking a strain, and it wasn't good for me. Like, I'm already a big guy. And imagine sitting and driving for 11 hours a day. It really takes a toll on the body, like many people can't believe. Like, so shout out to all the truck drivers that love it and still do it. Like, I take my hat off to them. But brother, it made me miserable. I
get it. And, something that's funny about what you just said, I've been reading this book. I actually just finished it, called The Healing Codes. And he talks about in there about how every illness and every disease comes from stress. Somehow, some type of stress on our body. It could be physical, emotional, spiritual. So having a really stressful life is really shortening your life, probably because you're going to get some disease or illness or something, right? And so I totally get what you're saying and what you were doing. And you were exchanging time for money, right?
Yeah.
And then the government's debasing that money by printing more and more and more of it. And you don't have more and more and more time. They can't print more time for you, right?
Right.
So talk about what this mentor, what was a couple of the things that he or she taught you in the very beginning that like kind of started to click and make this make sense?
I think for me, what it was just showing me the process because, I had no type of business experience, no entrepreneurial quote unquote experience to a certain degree. Like, I wasn't familiar with the process of investing transactions, fixing flips, wholesaling, things of that nature. So I was probably as green as they came, right? And so he just kind of showed me the steps and the processes, and I was able to just take that and implement it. It's so crazy to me when people say, "Does this really work?" And I'm like, "Yes, it works when you work it."
Yeah.
And that works across almost any industry. I would imagine, whether it's e-commerce or insurance or anything in between. I'm sure they all work if you work it. And that's all I did. I just followed the steps, and I didn't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. Which is, so it's funny that there's a lot of stuff that you've said that, like you've also mentioned are kind of the basic tenets of success is one, you got to take action. Two, find a coach or a mentor that's going to help you and help you have a system, whatever it is, if it's Burr, if it's fix and flip, whatever it is. And there are people that do, like you just said, e-commerce, and some of them make very little or nothing. And there are other ones that make millions and millions of dollars. So it's finding what you want, visualizing what does that look like? What's my end goal? And then that way you develop a plan on how to get there. And then you work the plan, just kind of like you said. So many people want it to be more difficult or more complicated than that, Clifford, but it's just really not, is it?
It's not. It's really not. Like, just do the work. Do the work.
Yeah.
I think people dance around the work, if that makes sense, right? Right. Even when it comes to, like, let's give the analogy of working out, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. You eat healthy, you go to the gym, right? People try to overcomplicate it and say, well, I need to do a specific keto diet, or I need to do this, or I need to do this. No, just get in the gym, start working out, and take the action. And I think that's the biggest issue for most folks is they try to figure out all of the steps prior to, but really you learn the most in the doing, like actually taking the action.
Yeah. I use working out and getting healthy as an example of success and how to have success too. So I love that you use that, Clifford, because there's a few things that I tell people is, if you chase the fads, you're going to have limited success, right? I could drop a bunch of weight doing keto or taking that shot or, whatever the latest fad is.
Yeah.
But what I see, the people that I see, that I'm 59 years old, and the people that I see in the gym, and I have a friend who's 9% body fat at 59, right?
Wow.
And I want to have abs by the time I'm 60. And I can do it. I can see them, but I'm not saying I have abs, right?
Yeah.
But it's very simple. It's every single day. You win today, you lose one, you win one, and you the one thing that I found, when you put something in your mouth, know what it's going to do to your body. Meaning, if it's going to turn to sugar, don't put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Because sugar's not good for you, right? Get a gallon of water. I mean, the simplest thing to do is go to the store and get those little gallons of water and just drink it. It's like,
got one right here.
You got it, right? There you go. I mean, it's not rocket science.
It
does take effort, but the more that you do it, and you know what? One day you drink a gallon of water and you think, man, I feel pretty good. The next day you don't, and you go, I wonder why I'm dragging. I kind of have a little bit of brain fog. And then, like you said, you go to the gym, and who I really respect at the gym is the super overweight man or woman, because that takes guts to go in there, right?
Sure.
And especially the gym I go into, there's a lot of bodybuilders in there, and
Nice.
and there's a lot of young guys that are just jacked, right?
Yeah.
And so to go in there and be really overweight would be tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that what lifting weights is progress,
It
right?
is.
You know, you grab the 60-pound dumbbells and you do 12, and then you go, wait a minute, I did 12 there. I could do 65. You grab the 65s, all of a sudden you're doing those 12. And then you grab the 70s, and it's just this progression. It's the same way with success. And maybe you can talk about how this, with the people that you work with, like how you see that progression and how it equals to financial success and financial independence.
Yeah. I kind of want to piggyback on what you're saying, like on the fitness analogy. Like I was extremely obese. I was over 450 pounds at one point.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I weighed in this morning at 260.
Nice.
And I go to a hardcore like bodybuilding gym, very similar to you. And I think it's important for people to see is like, you have to put yourself in proximity. Am I saying that correctly? Right? Like you got to surround yourself in certain type of environments to exceed and excel. You know, when I see these guys, young and older, because there's, you know, I be inspired by people who are 50, 60. They're in here, they're shredded, they're looking incredible. And so now I'm visualizing literally my life at that. Like, man, when I get to 50, when I get to 60, I'm going to look like that guy. I had one old guy tell me, he was in his mid 60s. I mean, he looked incredible. And I was like, man, I want to look like that when I'm in your age. Well, he said, get started now.
Totally. Yeah. You know, here's what I love is, you know, when I was in my 40s, I had some friends that were a little bit older. I played golf with them, and they'd say, wait till you're 50. You know, it starts aches and pains, injuries. I'm 59. I'm telling you, I feel like I'm 35.
Yeah.
There's no pain and aches and pain. I mean, do I get more massages than I did at 35 or more stretching? You know, I not only go to the gym, but I also go and get stretched by somebody every week. And I do that, but that's more for preventative, make sure that I'm not going to get injuries. Do I warm up a little bit more than I used to? Yeah, I warm up a little bit, but I don't have any aches and pains. I promise you I'm as strong as most 35-year-olds. And I can hit a golf ball as far as most 35-year-olds. So the thing that I love about that is, but it's a journey, right? Like you said this in the beginning, and you know, like, hey, I just decided, I made a choice that being a truck driver is hard, being a real estate investor is probably hard too. But I'm going to choose my hard. My hard's going to be this, where I can have my family and I can have all this stuff and I can prioritize the things that God has given me. I mean, talk about choosing that hard and then that progression.
I think, what's the old saying where it says the pain of remaining the same has to be greater than the pain of change? I think that's realistic. I think about that for me in my personal life, right? With my career. Being away from the house, I'm a man that actually wants to spend time with his family. So that was bothering me. I wasn't making the income that I felt like I deserved and I wanted, so I needed to change that. My health wasn't what I wanted to be, and so I needed to change that. Because too, there's always the thing of sowing and reaping, right?
Yeah.
I believe we're always sowing and reaping. Right? If I sow seeds of eating fried chicken every day, or I eating unhealthy trash and garbage, well, the things that I'm going to reap in my 50s and 60s is high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, and all of those things. But if I have a little bit of sacrifice and a little bit of discipline to where we're at a, holiday party, holidays are coming up, and everybody's stuffing their face. If I have just a little more reservation than maybe some of those people, then the benefit that I'll reap, down the line is going to be tenfold. In my opinion.
And, I totally agree. It's like, Tony Robbins talks about that. We're motivated by pain or pleasure, right? And pain's the stronger motivator. You know, when I was a kid, I was homeless at one point in time. We slept behind the Moose Lodge. Wow. And, you know, like when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was super motivated because I was afraid that someday I'm going to be homeless again. And, you know, now almost 60 years old, I may have that little fear somewhere in the back of my head, but it's definitely faint. But, you know, you're motivated to avoid pain, and we'll do whatever. You know, if somebody said, hey, you got to work 3 jobs or you're going to lose your family, you'd work 3 jobs. You do whatever you got to do, right?
Exactly.
If somebody said, hey, to have abs, you just got to eat 200 grams of protein a day and drink a gallon of water and work out 6 days a week, you'd go, well, maybe I really don't want abs.
Or you know what I mean? Right. But I'll even on the, I love that we're talking about health, because I'm really on this kick right now on this journey. But I want to throw a perspective out there that I started, I don't know when this hit me, maybe a year or 2 ago, but most of us have family, maybe a spouse or children or friends and family that we love and care about in our community. I actually think that it is selfish for you not to show up the best version of yourself, right? Like, people depend on you, Jim. People, our listeners, there's somebody in their life that they depend on them, right? So how would it be for me to show up and giving my wife a half-ass version of myself? I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on here, but you know what I mean? Like my daughters, even here, how disrespectful would it be for me to show up? You invited me here as a guest, where I'm in here dragging, low energy, like not showing up the best person that I can for today, right? Like I owe my community, the people that I serve, our team members that we work with, more than that. Right? So I would even challenge somebody, like flip the script. Like, you're being selfish by not taking care of yourself. You are putting your own needs before those that depend on you.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I mean, I love that. So Clifford, tell me what you do for people, what's your business? You know, are you coaching people? Are you syndicating? Tell me what you're doing. And the philanthropy, I want to hear about that.
Oh, absolutely. I can talk about the philanthropy all day long. So we have a community. It's called the Real Estate Corral Investors Network. It's a private community. And I help a lot of people get started in real estate investing. So I'm talking about somebody that wants to do their first flip or buy their first rental, you know, maybe even do wholesaling, right? I show them, you know, the steps that I took, the path that I take on how I actively do wholesaling, actively do buy and holds. And I just share that with them. And I've coached over, I think, 4,000 people. And that's not an exaggerated number in any form or fashion, and help them get started, whether they're doing this full time or part time, because we know the cost of inflation is insane. And so many people just need to offset the cost of living, or they've been a teacher for so long and realizing that, you know, this retirement isn't really going to cut it and give them the life that they want. And so that's kind of the mentorship or community aspect of what I do there. Now, the nonprofit stuff that we do is called Cowboys for the Community. That's where my heart is, man. And every single month on the third Saturday, whether it's raining, snowing, sleeting, well, we don't get much snow here in Texas, but rain and hot weather, it don't matter. We go out and we have a huge community cookout for the homeless. Nice. I say homeless, but you don't have to be homeless to be hungry. Like, we cook full meals. Like, if you came over to my house and you and I are sitting and having prime rib, that's what I feed my community.
That's right? Awesome.
Like, we need to nourish our bodies. We need high quality, clean foods that's going to fuel us, sustain us, and help us overcome illnesses and things of that nature. Like, there's no knock on any organization, but we're not feeding bologna sandwiches and chips. Like,
I got you.
And we've had people just crying and thanking us for a whole meal, because for some people, that's going to be the only meal they eat that day. Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we literally set up in a vacant lot every month. And I show up with the grills and smokers and all that stuff. And we start cooking. And now we're feeding about 300 people every month now.
Mm.
And
That's awesome, man.
yeah,
That's awesome. Congratulations and God bless you for doing that.
Thank you.
So, okay, I like, what I like to do on here, Clifford, is get, people get to know you. Now they know a little bit about you, help people that don't know how to do real estate. You have a community that helps them learn about real estate, right? And I'm assuming there's courses on there they can take and free information and maybe some stuff that they pay for because they got to have a little skin in the game once they get to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
And, we do the same exact thing. We teach people about financial independence and really about how money works and infinite banking and all of that stuff. And so I love to partner with people like you. So tell people out there in the audience, and we'll put all this in the show notes. So if you're driving, just know that it'll be in there. Clifford, how do people get a hold of you?
I'm pretty active on social media. Clifford the Cowboy Closer on YouTube. I put regular content out there. Instagram, Facebook. I'm pretty active there. They can always connect with me on there.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Clifford. I really appreciate, man. I love your spirit. I love your energy. So I got 2 questions for you. The first question is, what's the best advice anybody's ever given you?
That is really hard. That is a hard question for me. I got so many.
You can give me a couple if you want.
I think number one, invest in myself. My life didn't really begin to change to where I started to invest in myself, whether that was in coaching, masterminds, investing in the quality of foods that I buy now. Like invest in yourself, I think, would be one of the most important, impactful things that can transform anybody's life. Even if it doesn't always have to go and be a $2, $10, $20, $30,000 investment. It could be a $10 book.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I really love that because, when I was a kid, I hated school. I wasn't a good student. I always tell people I was a solid 1.2, 1.3 GPA guy, but at a really bad public school. But I love to learn. And when somebody taught me, I learned this from a janitor, Clifford, is this janitor at the gym that I ran back in the day. He said, if you read an hour, now I don't even know if he was right. Okay. But he said, if you read an hour a day in 6 weeks, you'll be an expert on whatever topic you're reading about.
Wow.
Now, that was all I needed because I wanted to be an expert. Right. Wow. So I started reading. And I read all and then I started reading every personal development book that I could. And my partner, Nick Costco, and I are just writing the book, The 12 Most Important Personal Development Principles and Lessons from all the best books, and then their roots in the Bible, because they all of the lessons have roots in the Bible. Yes, every one of them, which is so cool. So
is that book out? Have y'all finished that book yet?
We finished it. We're editing right now, so we're beating the out of the editor right now. But she's gonna have it done. We wanted to release it around Thanksgiving. It's not gonna happen. It's gonna be the beginning of next year, but it's coming out fast. And as soon as we get one, I'm gonna send you a signed copy. And I want to talk to you before I ask you the final question. Tell me about your book or books that you've written.
It's, I don't know if you can see it there. It's Roadmap to Success.
Yeah.
And so it's just how I share my journey, how I went from truck driver to real estate investor, and key points that helped me, by making decisions, coming up with clear plans and goals, taking action, things of that nature. It's a quick, simple read. It's designed to be like that because My ADD gets to flaring pretty,
I'm with
quickly.
you right there too, brother.
But it hit #1 new release in self-help. It hit Amazon bestseller too. So definitely,
Awesome.
I highly recommend checking it out, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question. If God came down from heaven while we're talking about books, and he only allowed you to retain the knowledge that you've received from one book that you've read, what would that book be?
Oh, this probably is going to sound cliche, and I'm sure you get this before. I would probably say the book of Proverbs. You know, I'm a man of faith. I'm a praying man. There's a lot of wisdom in that book.
There, you
Right?
know what? There is.
There's a
You know
lot
what's
of
funny
wisdom in
about
there.
Clifford? I used to say outside of the Bible. Then I thought, well, why would I say outside of the Bible? Because if you say the Bible, then I ask you what book. So you already answered it.
Yeah,
So because I always say, what book resonates with you the most?
yeah.
So tell me your favorite. Tell me your favorite verse or proverb.
I don't know if there's one favorite
Okay.
verse that I could just point out right off the top. Like, yeah, I don't know if there's one favorite one there. Like,
So
it's so intertwined.
yeah,
And
there was a book written. I don't know if you've ever seen this book, but it's Rockefeller, and it's John Rockefeller, or it's J.D. Rockefeller writing to his son John. And J.D. Rockefeller grew up in Cleveland. He was super poor, and when he was a kid, he visualized that he was going to be the richest man in the world. He set that as a goal. Now, I didn't do that. I grew up really poor. I never thought about being the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
But he did. And once he was the richest man in the world, you got to think about like how they communicated back there. Then he was writing letters to his son, giving him advice. So you can literally go get this book, and it's 28 letters to my son is what the name of the book is. But guess what? There's 30 letters. There's 2 bonus letters in the end. So I always ask people when they say, I read that book, I say, how many letters are there? Well, there's 28. It says it right there on the cover. Nope, there's 30. So, but think about that. The richest man in the world who went from nothing to being the richest man, giving his son advice, telling him, here are the lessons that I want you to learn.
Yeah.
And one of the things he says is one of the things that hindered my development in of my wealth was the banks. But guess what? Now I am the bank, and I love that. And
I love it. I love it. And that's
so. Yeah, go ahead.
And and now I'm just kind of curious, and I'm brainstorming off of you now. That's kind of like on the infinite banking is how you become your own bank. Am I wrong? I don't fully understand.
No, that's exactly right. Somehow you got to be the bank, right? Somebody's got to be the banker in your life. It might as well be you. And infinite banking is a way, I think the best way, but it's a way for you to do that.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we have a community too, and we'd love to, maybe have some of your stuff on our community. If there's a course or something, I can have Heather reach out and put one of your basic courses on our community so people can learn a little bit about you when they're searching around our community to see like, hey, how do I find a coach? How do I find a mentor? How do I get started? And so many people have a hard time. Once you're in it, once you jump in that river and you're swimming, guess what? Yeah. You're going to get to the other side. But jumping in that river takes some guts.
But I think actually I'll personally, when this releases, of course, I'm going to send this out to my community and email it, because that's almost like the next evolution, right? Like we can only make so much money actively with flipping and wholesaling, but then what, right? We need to make sure it's not just about, in my opinion, it's not just about how much money we make, but how much money we can keep, right? Yeah. And things like this. And I'm just like in the baby stages of learning about infinite banking and stuff. And it's very, very interesting.
Well, if you after the show, send me your mailing address. I'll send you Nelson's book, if you don't have it, called Becoming Your Own Banker, Unlocking the Infinite Banking Concept. And if you read those 92 pages, Clifford, and then you watch the course that I did for 2 hours and 45 minutes explaining the book, like, hey, what is this book all about? Like, you read it and you go, oh my gosh, that sounds really cool and really powerful. Then I explain all the concepts in the book, page by page. You will know more about infinite banking than most people that are out there selling infinite banking. And I promise you that if I waste your time, those 4 hours or whatever it is, then I will donate $5,000 to your favorite charity for your time.
Yes, sir.
All right?
No, I'm sure if you're recommending it, it's going to be value for sure. But I think that's very important for just the listeners to know that there's always other levels. And we need to, I think, understand the difference between a high active income and actually wealth building, like what you do and what you teach. There's a massive difference. People think that, maybe flashing a Rolex, don't get me wrong, I love a Rolex, but that's not necessarily wealth building in my opinion, right? Like we need to know the difference here.
You can have the Rolex as long as you have an asset that's going to pay for it. That's what Robert Kiyosaki would say. You can have whatever you want. Don't use your time to pay for it. Have an asset pay for it. So if you want to go buy a $100,000 watch, then you better get something that's going to earn $100,000, right?
Exactly.
And then you get to make the decision. Should I buy that watch or should I take that $100,000 and go buy another property that's going to make me more money? Well, that's up to you. We all kind of make those emotional decisions. Sure. All right, Clifford. So thank you very much as we wrap up. I really, really appreciate your time. And I really encourage everyone to go look for Clifford and learn from Clifford. And this is a guy that put it out there, man. I was a truck driver. I wasn't happy. And I decided to do this. And now I can tell you're happy. I can tell you're healthy. Hey, I wonder how that works. You went from over 400 pounds to 260 pounds and getting healthier and healthier every day. And you're getting wealthier and wealthier every day. Next time, maybe, Clifford, we'll talk about that correlation between wealth and health. But to everybody out there, thank you for listening. And we're going to wrap this up like we do every show with the incredible words of Earl Nightingale and the strangest secret. So take it away, Earl.
Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about.
Thanks for listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If you want to start increasing your wealth building ability right now, go to community.createtailwind.com to join our free online community and get access to free, in-depth training designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. See you next week.